Never in my wildest dreams did I think it will lead to us being taken away in handcuffs. It's so crazy. It feels like a bad dream.
You're talking too much, Wendy. I do not want you to go to jail. And I'm begging you to stop talking. I'm begging you to stop interviewing. I'm begging you because I don't believe it's helping you.
Welcome back to Celebrity News Addict. Today, we're breaking down the absolute freefall of Dr. Wendy Osefo. We're moving past the initial shock of her October arrest because things just went from bad to the possibility of 15 years in prison. New court bombshells have just dropped, alleging that Wendy and Eddie weren't just living a double life, they were living a triple one, reportedly holding over 40 credit cards under various aliases to mask a mountain of debt. So, in this video, we're getting into it all, including the combined 34 criminal charges, the most recent court order that has forced the Osefos to hand over 8 years of financial records, the $450,000 insurance claims, and the staggering evidence of inconsistencies that sparked this investigation in the first place. Plus, we're breaking down the drama from the RHOP reunion, including Wendy's tearful testimony, the smug mugshot seen around the world, and the chilling warnings from her fellow housewives who think she's talking herself straight into a jail cell. From false identities to a marriage under fire, the doctor is officially in the hot seat. And, as always, we've got a lot to cover. So, let's get straight into it. I released a full deep dive into Wendy and Eddie's arrests and the allegations against them when headlines first broke back in October. So, if you'd like all the juicy details, I'll link that video down below. But for this video, I'll just do a quick recap of the arrest and charges to bring everyone up to speed before getting into the latest news. As always, I'll pop the timestamp on screen so you can skip ahead if you're already familiar with their charges. So, this all started on April 7th, 2024, when Carroll County Sheriff's Office was dispatched to the Osefos' home in Maryland for a reported break-in. When they arrived, Wendy and Eddie informed police that they had been on vacation in Jamaica from April 2nd to April 7th and had returned to find their home had been burglarized. They reported roughly 80 items of jewelry, luxury goods, clothing, and shoes stolen, adding up to more than $200,000. According to reports, investigators at the scene had immediate questions about the break-in, noting there was no obvious point of entry, no physical evidence of burglary, such as footprints or fingerprints, and the ADT alarm system, which had been active during their vacation, had never been triggered, with no motion detected inside the home. The following day, on April 8th, Eddie made claims with 3 separate insurance companies: Travelers Insurance, Jewelers Mutual Insurance, and Homesite Insurance Company, providing each with a list of property damage and stolen items. Here's a quick summary of each claim and how they lit the match that sent Wendy and Eddie's lives up in flames. The first claim was submitted to Homesite Insurance, where both Eddie and Wendy signed a sworn statement of loss for a total of $450,000 in property and stolen items. This claim was denied just a few days later due to failure to disclose the policy with Travelers. In the Travelers claim, Eddie re-reported the burglary, but stated that he and Wendy had been wearing their anniversary bands while on vacation. But just 2 days later, on April 10th, he updated this claim, stating that Wendy's gold diamond anniversary band had in fact gone missing. Travelers Insurance settled this claim on April 10th, sending the Osefos $25,380, which included $4,500 for the anniversary band. Then, on April 11th, the couple both signed and submitted letters to Jewelers Mutual reporting the burglary, and again claiming for the stolen items, listing over 57 items, including Wendy's anniversary band, which had already been compensated by Travelers the day before. During their investigation, the Sheriff's Department contacted all 3 insurance providers as standard practice for a burglary of this high value. But they became suspicious when they learned Eddie had submitted claims to all 3 companies. Once alarm bells were raised, deputies began investigating the couple and found a photo on Instagram which proved that Wendy had been wearing her gold diamond anniversary band after reporting it stolen and receiving the payout. They also found email evidence that incriminated the pair, including an email that Eddie sent to Wendy on April 12th, asking if there were any additional high-value items they could add to their list of stolen goods in order to get the total to exceed $423,000, which was their policy maximum. Over the next year, detectives found yet more evidence of fraud, including receipts that showed luxury items which they had reported stolen had in fact been returned before they reported the burglary. Eddie was later asked whether any of the items on the list had been returned, which he denied. Investigators also found that the pair were, quote, burdened by substantial debt at the time of the alleged burglary, so now they'd found a motive behind all of these false claims. Then, on October 9th, 2025, Wendy and Eddie were indicted by a grand jury and arrested on insurance fraud, conspiracy insurance fraud, and making a false statement to a police officer. Wendy was charged with 16 counts in total, while Eddie was charged with 18. Following their arrest, deputies executed a search and seizure warrant on the home, where they found an additional 15 items which the Osefos had previously reported stolen as part of the fraudulent claim, including jewellery and luxury handbags that had clearly never been missing at all. After spending a night in police custody on October 9th, Wendy and Eddie were released on the morning of Friday, October 10th, placing a $50,000 bond each for their freedom. Reports revealed that the pair had not yet entered a plea, but had acknowledged their charges following their release. The legal battle then started heating up on October 17th when Wendy's lawyer filed court documents which claimed Wendy had been illegally arrested and demanded all charges be dismissed due to alleged, quote, defects in the charging document and an unlawful search and seizure. Wendy also took this as an opportunity to request that she and Eddie be tried separately. So that's where we left things in our previous update. But since they posted that $50,000 bond and Wendy requested separate trials, the updates have been coming in thick and fast. We're talking 40 secret credit cards, a smug mugshot, and a massive rift in the Potomac cast. Let's get into the updates you haven't yet heard. As always, we'll be working through things in chronological order to give you the most comprehensive update. So, the first update came on November 14th, 2025, when Wendy made her first public appearance following her arrest. During a Real Housewives of Potomac panel at BravoCon, Wendy spoke about the charges, thanking everyone who has reached out to her and stating, "You know, it's an unfortunate situation, and right now I can't say too much, but I will say when the time is right." Adding, "I will share my story with everyone, and for now, they're just allegations, so we will continue to push forward." She also went on to thank her RHOP castmates and production team for the support. Then, on November 26th, another bombshell dropped. Court documents obtained by People revealed that prosecutors in the case requested additional financial records, arguing that Wendy and Eddie have approximately 40 credit and/or debit cards, some of which are believed to be in company names, and some are under the aliases Pam Oliver and Eddie Hennessy, alleging that these company names and aliases are a, quote, deliberate attempt to mask their identity. In the filing, the prosecution gave their reasons behind the request for more financial records, stating, quote, the state expects such documentation to show a pattern of excessive spending supporting motive in this case, adding, the amount of debt owed by the Osefos jointly, individually, and by the businesses they own is highly relevant to their motive. However, in their defense, the Osefos' attorneys claimed that the prosecutors were on a fishing expedition, with Eddie's attorney, Joseph Murtha, claiming that they're looking for something they haven't figured out after 18 months of investigating. In fact, just hours after the news was released, Wendy and Eddie shared a post to Instagram with a joint statement from their legal team. It began, "At the outset, police failed to properly investigate the initial burglary despite clear indications of a break-in, displaying clear bias against the Osefo family. The The Osefos heard nothing but silence from police for over 18 months, despite complete cooperation and requests for updates. It is common knowledge that other Real Housewives cast members have also been victimised after documenting their travel on social media, yet none faced this level of scrutiny or criminal charges. It continued, "We believe it is deeply unjust for the Sheriff's Office and Office of the State's Attorney for Carroll County to publicly expose confidential financial information about Eddie and Wendy Osefo. What is most disturbing is that the state appears to have begun investigating only after charging the Osefos, which is a highly irregular approach that raises serious concerns about motive and fairness." They added, "The public release of the family's private financial details serves no lawful purpose and only invites conclusory opinions about a case the state is obviously still investigating." The statement concluded, "The Osefos have never used an alias on any financial application. This allegation is false and misleading. Such names were used for the delivery of packages following their lawful purchase to safeguard the identity of very public figures. It is ironic for the state to assert or exaggerate the existence of any purported debt in connection with this accomplished professional couple. Due process is paramount to the administration of justice, and its breach by misleading the public with a false narrative has only compounded the harm. The defence is confident the court will prevent any further violation of the Osefos' right to a fair trial." Clearly, this plea fell on deaf ears, as during a hearing on December 19th, 2025, a Carroll County judge ruled that Wendy and Eddie must turn over 8 years of financial documents to the authorities for investigation in order to help prosecutors establish a motive and prove a pattern of excessive spending. The next legal update came on March 4th, 2026, when both Wendy and Eddie appeared in court for a hearing where it was confirmed that the pair would be tried separately, with estimates that each trial will run for 4 days, with 1 day allocated to the defence. According to reports from Us Weekly, court documents also showed that both Wendy and Eddie waived their rights to a speedy trial within 180 days of their first court appearance. However, podcaster Taria Faison claims to have attended the hearing and shared her updates to X. She reported, quote, "Wendy wants a trial seemingly immediately. The defence and prosecution were looking for dates in March. However, there were none available for a jury trial. This makes me wonder if this is a setup for Eddie to take the fall, i.e., Wendy will be tried first and perhaps enter a plea, then Eddie will be tried later and take the blame." Taria also spoke on My Friend, My Soulmate, My podcast on March 9th, where she shared more details on the hearing and shared one really awkward moment between Wendy and the prosecutor, which looked as though Wendy was trying to gain brownie points with them. Let's take a look.
As we were leaving out of the courtroom, they went out before us. The prosecution has the door open. The prosecutor is a woman. Wendy walks up to her. I thought Wendy said, and thank you, in that little voice. And the prosecution was very kind of was stoic, but Chantel said she thinks the prosecutor had a loss. And Wendy said, "Sorry for your loss." Either way, no matter what she said, the prosecutor was very much had holding the door okay, no emotion was shown.
Like, you ain't getting any brownie points from me. I think that could end up hurting you more than doing it, than just doing nothing, to be quite honest. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
That shows to me, you still think that you can get away with fake bullshit.
Yes,
you know?
yes,
You think that the fake bullshit, you pretending you give a shit about me, is going to make me give you a couple less days and potentially, no.
According to the Carroll County Circuit Court Clerk's Office, neither Wendy nor Eddie entered a plea, and a status update for both cases is set for May 20th, so I'll be sure to update you then. So that's the court updates we have so far. But while the legal updates have been rolling in, the court of public opinion have also been casting their votes, including Wendy's fellow housewives. The first opinion came on February 2nd, when Stacey Rush was interviewed by People magazine about her second season on RHOP. When asked about the allegations against Wendy and Eddie, Stacey said, "Wendy is my friend and we talk all the time," adding, "It's shocking, but it's also beautiful to see that she's still standing up and she's strong in her faith. I just want to support her as much as I can." Gizelle was the next housewife to weigh in on Wendy's current situation. Speaking to TMZ while out in New York City on February 15th, Gizelle stated that Wendy should definitely take a plea deal. Let's take a look.
Gotta ask you. Yes. I know Karen said, she didn't take that plea deal. So, the fans are like, wait a minute, Wendy, you better take a plea deal if they ask you, girl.
She should.
Is that kind of like a forewarning to Wendy? Like, girl, take that plea deal if they're going to offer it to you?
I'm sure she should.
Maybe
Not maybe.
time or no.
For definitely.
And after her 6-month stint in jail for driving under the influence, Karen Huger also had some advice for Wendy. Amid a discussion during the first part of the RHOP reunion, Karen told Wendy to stop speaking so publicly on the allegations and the trial.
You're talking too much, Wendy. I do not want you to go to jail. And I'm begging you to stop talking. I'm begging you to stop interviewing. I'm begging you because I don't believe it's helping you. Take it from the Karen you used to like. How about that? Because when you talk, they watch. Okay, they hear you. And so I would have said, respectfully, Andy, I can't answer those questions right now.
In response, Wendy explained that she had already consulted with her legal team on what she should and shouldn't say.
Prior to coming here, my legal counsel was informed that I would be here.
Okay, good.
And they are very aware of the line of questioning. What I divulged right now is already public record.
Later, Andy also asked Karen what advice she would give Wendy about potentially serving time, to which Karen said, "My prayers are with you and your family. Adversities are always faced in life. I know you'll rise, and I pray you'll never know what it's like to have your liberties taken away from you." But what about Wendy herself? Well, during part 1 of the RHOP Season 10 reunion, Wendy opened up about the couple's legal troubles. In a scene that was filmed just 1 week after the Osefos were arrested in October, Wendy said, "I feel like I'm in a constant nightmare. The house doesn't even feel the same." Speaking on how this will impact their marriage, Wendy told Eddie, "I just know after this incident, I'm not the same person. And I hope that I'll be okay with you, because I'm not the same. I don't think I'll ever be the same." Later in the reunion, Wendy also addressed her smiling mugshot, which caused a media explosion when it was first released last year. In her defense, Wendy stated, "The guy who was taking my picture, he was really nice. He was like, 'Give me another look, give me another.' He was playing around with me because he knew it was heavy. I was crying in there. I was sad. So he was just trying to cheer me up." When Andy asked if she regretted smiling, Wendy said, "I don't regret smiling. Because at the end of the day, I think we've all been through things, and you try to smile through the pain, no matter how heavy it is." She further clarified that neither she nor Eddie took any marijuana edibles before the mugshots were taken, despite internet speculation. She said Eddie did look far gone because he had been asleep in his holding cell before taking the photo. Wendy also described her night in jail as scary, claiming she's absolutely terrified of what's to come, but adding, "My faith is what's carrying me." In her closing statements during the reunion, Andy gave Wendy the floor to share any final words, to which she said, "I'm not on the other side of it yet, but when you're in that valley, you see a side of yourself that you've never seen before." Adding, "It builds humility, it builds strength. And even though I'm not out of the storm, I'm already a better woman for being in the storm, and I'm forever grateful for that." So, Wendy and her fellow housewives have shared their opinions. But one person I didn't expect to hear from amid this drama was ex-Real Housewife of Beverly Hills, Crystal Kung Minkoff. During an episode of the Humble Brag podcast, which aired on March 9th, Crystal spoke with co-host Cynthia Bailey about Wendy's recent legal drama and her decision to speak so openly about it on the reunion. And Crystal wholeheartedly agreed with Karen that Wendy needs to keep quiet and lay low. Let's take a look.
Oh, did you watch the reunion?
I watched the clips.
Oh,
yeah.
I watched full part 3.
Okay.
It ended with her. Karen was kind of giving her real tough love. You need to shut your mouth. You talk too much.
I saw that clip. Yeah.
Yeah. So that clip went viral. But when you really watch it, she's just which I agree. I can't believe you're here. I can't believe your lawyers allowed you to come to this reunion and talk about it you did nothing wrong. And she's just, it's there's so much evidence against them, but she doubled down. And she tells the story so cleanly. And I'm I guess in their mind is just this is the story.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. and I will be unwavering in the story. But I just don't think I'm not an attorney, but I don't know. I just think you lay low, skip the reunion, send your love. We'll get through this as a family, wrap it up. But she's out there fighting the other girls about like the season, like as if nothing happened.
So that's all the updates we have so far on Wendy and Eddie's current trial. But with trials looming in just a couple of months, this journey is far from over. And with the evidence of 40 fake credit cards, falsely returned items, and multiple insurance claims stacking up against them, the picture isn't looking good for the couple. As always, I'd love to know what you guys think. Should Wendy be speaking so publicly about everything that's going on? Should she have stayed home and avoided the reunion altogether? Is there some form of strategy in place to set Eddie up to take the fall and get Wendy a lesser sentence? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. And if you haven't already, please don't forget to like, hype, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more reality TV news and updates on this case as they happen. Thanks for watching.